The Bible has a great deal to say about justice and about charity as well. And it is to these points that I would like to particularly address your attention today as they impinge upon this subject of the Scripture and economics, because here, I think, is the greatest source of confusion in our time. There is a confusion, a confounding of justice and charity, which is bringing about the economic disorders, the lack of productivity, slowing down the gross national product, throwing people out of work, and creating all sorts of economic chaos in the nation today. And therefore, I think it is vitally important that people understand the difference. I venture to say that probably 95% of the people in America could not give a clear definition of what justice or charity really are. So let's look at them for a moment. What is justice? The first thing that I would have you to remember about justice is that justice is blind. And that's something that we've been trying to tell people for a great many centuries. Certainly there leaps to mind immediately the famous statue of justice with scales held high and the sword in the hand and the blindfold on the eyes. Justice is blind. It does not discriminate. It does not see whether one is high or low class, rich or poor, black or white, working or not working. It does not see one's national origin. It does not detect one's religion. It treats all men alike and all men equally, and that is the essence of justice. The statue would also remind us by the sword that is enforced by the power, the coercive power of the state. In fact, let it be clearly understood that the principal business of the state, of law and of government, is the enforcement of justice in the protecting of the rights of other people, of all people, and of that equally. Charity, on the other hand, is not based on coercion, and it is not blind. Charity is discriminating, and charity also is voluntary. You remove the voluntary aspect of charity, and it is charity no longer. What would you think if, after Robin Hood had placed his sword at the throat of some rich man and deprived him of his purse, and then taken the coins and scattered them to the poor, what would you think of that rich man if he went and told his friends how charitable he had been to the poor? Why, there's no charity in it at all. Not an ounce. If you take away the voluntary aspect of charity, it is simply despoliation. It is legal plunder. It is robbery. It is not charity. And today, in this confusion of these two concepts, which have been merged into something which is called social justice, and social justice is the basis for the welfare state. And it is a confounding or a confusion of justice and charity. And it is having tremendous impact upon the economic well-being of this country. If you, by force, take money from A and give it to B, then that is not charity, it is not justice, it is neither one. Because when you try to merge charity and justice into something which is falsely called social justice, the result is that you have neither justice nor do you have charity. Charity is destroyed and justice is destroyed. Because if you take money from A and give it to B, then you are not treating all people alike. You are treating them unequally, therefore unfairly and by definition, unjustly, because justice blindly considers all men alike and protects the rights of each and all. Now, behind this concept of social justice, there lies further the idea that there must be a more equitable distribution of wealth. Now, we hear this repeatedly today. We've heard this so many times that I'm sure the majority of Americans have accepted it. There must be a more just distribution of wealth. Now, you see that behind that concept is the idea of a static economic pie of one size, remaining the same size. Now, it's obvious if you have 8 people and 1 pie, and you end up with a very large piece of pie, that you are despoiling somebody else. And the only reason you have more is because somebody else has less. And therefore we need to intervene with justice, and justice is going to mean that we're going to take away part of your pie and give it to somebody that has less. Now, that concept has become so prevalent in America that it needs to be carefully examined. First of all, this is accepting the static view of economics which is typical of communism and totally alien to the free enterprise system that made this country prosperous. The free market economy postulates a growing economic pie, and by no means indicates that if one person has more, the other person therefore must inevitably have less. In fact, it postulates just exactly the opposite. If one person has more, in the process of getting more, he has succeeded in contributing to the enlargement of every other piece. For example, Henry Ford was born into this world as a poor man. He left the world worth hundreds of millions of dollars. Now, from the static point of view, from the communist point of view, since he had hundreds of millions of dollars, there's only one conclusion. He has plundered everyone else. He has despoiled all of us of part of our wealth. And if justice will prevail, we shall take that away from him and divide it among ourselves, because he has impoverished us by his gain. Is that true? Is not the very opposite the truth? Is not the truth that every one of us is richer because of Henry Ford? Or would you prefer to have walked to church today? Or ride a horse? Now, the only time that that is not true is when the state intervenes and creates a monopoly. Then the market fails to operate, and somebody may be aggrandized with the result of the impoverishment of another, but that is contrary to the whole concept of free market, free enterprise economics.